It's been a couple months since Lightfall's come out, which has given me plenty of time to review the guns we got. Honestly, with the release of Strand guns, we've got plenty more synergy than we had before, and another fancy element to melt our enemies with. Today, I'm going to talk about the craftable guns that released with Lightfall and Season of Defiance. Also, quick little reminder, if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe, comment, whatever you want to help me out. Anyway, starting out with the Neomuna collection, we have a handy list of Space Age goodness in our hands. New perks and combinations never seen came on some of these weapons, offering new ways to play and blow your enemies away. As always, we're going to go best of worst. In order, we've got Iterative Loop, the Arc Rapid Fusion, Round Robin, the Strand 120 Hand Cannon, Phyllotactic Spiral, the Arc 340 Pulse, Volta Bracket, the Strand Aggressive Sniper, and Dimensional Hypotrochoid, the Stasis Heavy Waveframe GL. Starting out with one of the strongest weapons we've ever seen, we have Iterative Loop. You know, before this thing we had Cartesian, Null Composure, etc. for our major baking desires, but this thing kind of blows them out of the water being the first non-exotic Arc Rapid. Also, worth mentioning, all other Rapid Fusions except for Riptide came out before subclass synergies were baked into the element of the gun. I think you can see where I'm going with this. Yeah, this thing has Volt Shot, the end-all be-all for arc weapons, and plenty of damage to combo with it. It's not half bad and cruisable either, having surprising amounts of consistencies to its bursts, along with the damage buff it received as part of the mid-season patch. Info dump out of the way, I'd suggest Compulsive Reloader and Volt Shot for PvE, Under Pressure and Kickstart for PvP. Ooh boy, Round Robin might just be the return of the 120 Hand Cannon. This thing came out the gate one of the strongest options we've seen since the likes of Igneous Hammer, except it fits just nicely in that kinetic slot as a strand gun. Hand cannons weren't all too popular at the start of the season, but with the 20% they got with the patch, we're looking at a serious contender for one of the best strand primaries around for PvE, if you can hit your shots. Never mind all of that, this thing is one of the best hand cannons one can run in PvP, even able to 2-tab Guardians from quite the distance for a crispy half-second kill in the right context. Having a hot selection to choose from, I'd say Subsistence in your choice of Golden Tricorn or Hatchling for PvE. Keep Away in your choice of Kill Clip or Opening Shot for PvP. Coming off the back of that, we're staying strong with Phyllotactic Spiral. There seems to be a subsection of the community that has a serious knack for 340s, and using this thing might make you see why. Built with a strong stat package and a preference for distance, this thing will most likely keep you out of trouble unless whatever's shooting back brought something special for range. Having received 20% in the mid-season patch, it feels decent to use, and with the videos your favorite PvP sweats has made regarding this thing, it's a decent precision tool to add to your collection. For PvE, I'd suggest Keep Away in your choice of Frenzy or Volt Shot. For PvP, I'd suggest Keep Away in your choice of Headseeker or Kill Clip. Starting to taper off here, we've got Volta Bracket. While this thing isn't bad, it simply can't live up to the hype of its sisters in the aggressive frame like Succession or Macabre because it lacks a lot of originality or potency when it comes to PvE or PvP. Being Strand, it doesn't have the 15% boost to unshielded target damage for bosses, and that dip in damage is quite important. That said, it does have an ammo return perk, so it won't lag for backup DPS, especially with the 10% snipers will receive with Season 21, but it could do better. Triple Tap and Firing Line for PvE, firmly planted or Keep Away with Opening Shot or Eye of the Storm for PvP. Last up, unsurprisingly, is Dimensional Hypotrochoid. A lot of the issues with this GL, while it's an innovative one, stem from not doing enough damage or having enough reserves to justify how little damage it does and how fast it shoots. On top of that, this frame seems like it was built for clearing, seeing as it's the first heavy wave frame we've ever gotten, but that doesn't really help it any. Wave frames are more reliable when shot closer to you to get the wave out quicker, but doing that is most likely a one-way trip to the revive screen. Special wave frames don't have a tendency to kill on self-damage like that. Add on top of that it doesn't explode on impact, it's not a proper boss weapon either. All in all, it suffers from being a GL, but it's a really cool idea that I hope they buff. Field Prep and Vorpal or Chain Reaction for PvE. I wouldn't suggest using this one in PvP. Alright, the Neomuna weapons out of the way, let's start thinking about the Defiance gun. These are the ones you can grind out the seasonal battlegrounds for, with relative ease, seeing as on average you'd only need about 60 keys to get all of these crafted, excluding any patterns you might have received from quests or getting lucky. In order, we have Prodigal Return, the Arc Lightweight GL, Royal Executioner, the Solar Adaptive Fusion, Perpetualis, the Strand 600 Auto, Raconteur, the Stasis Precision Bow, Caretaker, the Solar Adaptive Sword, and Regnant, the Void Adaptive GL. Prodigal Return is kind of like if you took Salvage's Salvo and gave it a rework. Arc Lightweight GL, but this one's got Volt Shot on it. Yeah, it's a GL that has one of the strongest ad clear perks in the game, and plenty of utility as well with the Noble Deeds origin trait. Basically, every class has healing or some sort of way to buff or help yourself or teammates, and GLs benefit pretty heavily from reload speed. For PvE, I'd suggest Field Prep, Threat Detector, or Lead from Gold in the 3rd slot, and Volt Shot in the 4th. Not that noteworthy for PvP, but it more than makes up for that. Royal Executioner might not be as punchy as Prodigal Return, but it's more versatile. Even though adaptives traditionally aren't the best for PvE, they're not bad, and if you so desire, they're not the worst taken to PvP either. Adaptives always hit the sweet spot between range and damage, being a bit rangier than rapids, and their slower charge time is compensated for by having each bolt do slightly more damage. This one's got some sweet rolls on it as well, making it a gun you can craft for clear or dueling. Envious Assassin and Reservoir Burst for PvE, Firmly Planted and Successful Warm-Up for PvP. Even though Auto Rifle's got a 25% damage buff, Perpetualis as a 600 has quite the hill to climb to be relevant. Thankfully, it drops with new perks and, like the others in this collection, a decently useful origin trait. 600s are always a bit jumpy but have decent range of damage, being the well-rounded frame of autos. There's been plenty coverage of this one by people around the community, especially PvP-oriented creators trying to make heads or tails of this one. Not extra crazy, but it's good. For PvE, I say keep away in your choice of Golden Tricorn or Hatchling. For PvP, I suggest Zen Moment, Killing Wind, or Keep Away, with Eye of the Storm, Golden Tricorn, or Target Lock. Raconteur is basically a miniature version of Verkalock Curve, the Defiance Season Pass exotic. It's a precision, and precisions are usually favored in PvE for their accuracy and damage, and PvP for their decently reliable arrow tracking. Pair that with Noble Deeds and this thing will turn whatever you see into a cold pin cushion. Pretty simple this one, Archer's Tempo and either Explosive or Headstone for PvE, Surplus or Archer's Tempo and Eye of the Storm for PvP. Caretaker is pretty far down on this list for a pretty simple reason. Adaptive Swords are pretty much only used if they're the dares ones because those have eager edge, and it's going to take a lot to convince me that Valiant Charge is worth building around for speed's sake. Pair that with the heavy attack that adaptives do, and it's kinda just underwhelming. I do like that it's solar because I can stack Restoration and not instantly fall over when using it, but that's about all that's going for it. Tireless or Relentless with Surrounded, One for All, or Valiant Charge for PvE. Wouldn't suggest using this one in PvP. You might wonder how a heavy GL ended up down at the bottom of the list, but Regnant, although it received 20% at the beginning of the season, doesn't meet any of the expectations we place on heavy weapons. It doesn't really add crew that well, it doesn't boss bake, it can't really do a whole lot, and that's pretty much just a consequence of being a heavy GL. On the plus side, it's void, so it's got the potential for volatile rounds, but that's about it. Quite a shame, it's got quite the perk pool on it. Speaking of, I suggest Envious Assassin or autoloading with Cascade Point or Explosive Light for PvE, pretty much whatever you want for PvP. Alrighty, Noble Deeds out of the way, we've got another 6 count on the way, and a little bonus collection at the end. The collection we've got next is the Raid Collection for Root of Nightmares, one of the most novel sets of weapons we've yet to see, with an origin trait that gives these guns built-in self-synergy. Ranked how I'd put them, we've got Rufus's Fury, the Strand 720 Auto, Mykel's Reverence, the Strand 450 Sidearm, Acasia's Dejection, the Solar Trace, Briar's Contempt, the Solar Aggressive Linear, Nessa's Oblation, the Void Slug Shotgun, and Koraxis' Distress, the Strand Rapid GL. Rufus's Fury really surprised me with how much I ended up liking it. Being Strand, it can get unraveling rounds. Being an automatic weapon, that's a recipe for a violent confetti surprise. On top of that, this is a 720, which is usually the best... frame for most activities in the game, short of being a ranged dueling option in PvP. High damage, high stability, and this one's got a hefty amount of aim assist built in as well, meaning you'll be missing substantially less shots. Also, to boot, it's got the Harmonic Resonance origin trait, meaning if you pair it with any of the other guns in this list in other slots, you're buffing the handling and reload stats. Even without that, this thing will do more damage to enemies when they're powered up, whether it be in Super, Torment, or Angry mode or whatever, sort of like a mini Vorpal buff. Strong contender right here. For PvE, it's hard to find a bad role. I prefer Demo Frenzy, but you can find plenty use in Perpetual, Rewind, and Pugilist in that third slot, as well as Target Lock, Paracausal, or Hatching in the fourth. For PvP, I suggest Perpetual or Moving Target with Target Lock or tap the trigger. Banger gun. Up next, I managed to put a sidearm in second with Mykel's. This is quite possibly one of the easiest to use sidearms that currently exist in this game, having plenty of stability out the gate with plenty more you can add on if you so desire. Again, it's a really good frame for about all aspects of the game, and it gets unraveling rounds as well from your Strand, Subclass, and Artifact mods. Pair that with yet another stellar perk pool, and you've got yet again one of the best in class weapons from this raid. For PvE again, hard to find a bad role, you can justify pretty much whatever. That said, I like the combo of Perpetual Paracausal personally, but you could very easily justify Unrelenting, Rewind, and Pugilist in the third as well, and Frenzy, Swash, or Hatchling in the fourth. For PvP, I suggest Elemental Capacitor, Rewind, or Perpetual, with Harmony, Swash, or Paracausal. 2 bangers in a row. I don't know if we're quite 3 for 3, but Acasia's Dejection isn't bad at all in the slightest. It's probably one of the most preferable traces out there currently, having again one of the best stat packages, although that's not a very high bar given we've only seen 4 legendary traces. It's already been given the stamp of approval from some in PvP after the buff it got to body damage, making it more forgiving, and traces were already really good in PvE as a slightly above primary piece of gear. Given the potency of Double Special, a very good case to be made for being a banger as well. Field Prep, Perpetual, Reconstruction, or Rewind in the third slot, with your choice of Frenzy, Paracausal, Warp Incandescent for PvE. Hipfire Grip, Perpetual, or Keep Away in the third slot, and High Impact or Paracausal for PvP. The power fantasy continues, and Briar's Contempt is quite the powerful one. It's hard to compete with something like Cataclysmic, which gets a whopping 35% damage buff, but surrounded with Enhanced is 50%. Given the situationality of that slight advantage, it's hard to place one over the other, but Cataclysmic seems more reliable. This gun's only lower on the list because it doesn't have any ammo regen perks on it, but I figured that'd be tough to get working on a burst linear. And you know Bungie devs. It's pretty reliable to use in PvE and PvP, having quite good stability and aim assist stats out the gate. For PvE, I suggest Envious, Slide Shot, Rewind, Demo, or Reconstruction for that third slot, and Frenzy, Surrounded, or Focused Fury. For PvP, I suggest Keep Away or Slide Shot with basically whatever. It already one-taps at the head, you've got 3 chances to hit what you're looking at. Nessa's Oblation is looking to be something of a replacement for Phylo, our good old friend for Double Slug. Not only can it do that, but it can also be built for Ad Clear, a role that slugs don't usually play a part in. You can thank Bungie on that one for adding a void-based damage perk this season for that extra bit of versatility. Not only that, but it's a reliable one-tap in PvP as well for those that are comfortable with up-close precision. For clear, I suggest Dragonfly, with Frenzy, Paracausal, Destabilizing, or Vorpal. For boss baking, I suggest Reconstruction, Demo, or 4th times, with Frenzy, Vorpal, or Focus Fury. For PvP, I suggest Demo with Opening Shot. At the bottom of the list, we've got Koraxis'. Unfortunately, the 20% damage buff to GLs wasn't enough, but Koraxis' isn't bad in a multitude of roles compared to a lot of other GLs that we've already had. Unfortunately, being a rapid is not all too useful in PvP because it doesn't one-shot, but it makes up for that in PvE with the Origin trait seeming to help against Tormentors, which might just include Nezarec, not quite sure yet. Other than that, it just suffers from being a heavy GL, not having quite the reserves to keep up in damage or clear like any other heavy weapon. However, this one's special as it has plenty of perks to choose from that'll help handily with whatever use you have in mind. For clear, we've got Field Prep, Danger Zone, Envious, Reconstruction, and Chain Reaction in the 3rd slot, with Frenzy, Surrounded, Hatchling, or Paracausal in the 4th. For damage, we've got Impulse Amplifier, Field Prep, Reconstruction, and Demo in the 4th, with Frenzy, Surrounded, or Full Court. Yeah, with the Root Collection wrapped up, I must say all these guns are hard to roll a bad combination on, and the raid itself is easy to do. Also, despite their Adept counterparts not being craftable, there is a healthy weight to the chase of the Adept guns. While Adept mods aren't the end-all be-all, they do help these guns a lot, specifically for extra stats in PvP or a tiny bit of extra versatility in PvE. Alright, back on track. There's a tiny little bonus collection made of a shotgun and 3 swords which got reprised. These are the recovered Leviathan weapons you can buy from the focusing option in the Void table using Divine Engrams. Now, I might have used like 400 Divine Engrams getting all the red borders I could, but that's besides the point. In order, we've got Imperial Decree, the Kinetic Aggressive Shotgun, Throne-Cleaver, the Titan Solar Aggressive Sword, Death's Razor, the Warlock Void Vortex Sword, and Goldtusk, the Hunter Arc Lightweight Sword. Starting out with the most versatile of the bunch, Imperial Decree is one of the best shotguns that currently exists in the game. It gives Ragnhild a run for its money with how well built this thing can be for basically anything. It's popular in PvP, it's great for majors and beefy red bars in PvE, it's reliable and fun, and that's really all it needs to succeed. Aggressive frames and precision frames always compete for being the best in PvP, and there's a case to be made for both, but this thing just punches, and after a kill it gets faster fire rate as well. I suggest basically everything except stats for all in the 3rd slot, and Surrounded, Swash, and Trench Barrel for PvE. For PvP, Threat Detector, Surplus, or Slide Shot with Opening Shot. Up next and staying strong we have Throne-Cleaver. Up front, this is one of the most fun weapons to use in the game, and it makes you feel like a space paladin ready to cleave your enemies in twain. Pairing its hefty light swings with the devastation of the heavy slam, and you've got power in your hands. The only drawback is that it's a sword, and sword tracking can be iffy, and you have to get close to use it, leading to a lot of risky situations. Besides that, it's one of the most fun options Titans can wield for aggressive playstyles. I wouldn't suggest using this one in PvP, and for PvE, I suggest Unrelenting or Tireless Blade in the 3rd, with Surrounded, Valiant, Incandescent, or Vorpal in the 4th. Oh man, been a little bit since we got a good Vortex sword. Death's Razor has pretty much the best sword frame with no contest. Falling Guillotine remains one of the best swords in the game despite all the nerfs swords received, and that can mostly be chalked up to the heavy attack being really good. Death's Razor is no different, and on top of that, volatile rounds can stack on the sword just like Falling Guillotine. The Origin trait isn't bad either, helping to get your grenade and melee back just a little bit quicker. Again, not really a PvP option, and for PvE I suggest Counterattack, Tireless, or Relentless, with Surrounded, Valiant, Vorpal, Whirlwind, or Destabilizing rounds. Last but not least, we have Goldtusk, the Hunter exclusive sword. Using this thing immediately turns you into some sort of space ninja. I mean, look at how you run with this thing. It's so cool. Unfortunately, being a sword, you can't really reload it, so no Volt Shot, but this thing's already really good. The light attacks are swift, and the heavy gives you decent distance as well as doing decent damage. Short and sweet, literally whatever in the 3rd slot, anything except for Harmony or Counterattack in the 4th. That rounds out every craftable weapon we got this season. A short little side note, Marcellian C isn't craftable, it's bugged, and as far as I know it's supposed to be an introductory quest thing for next season, so keep an eye out. It looks to be a good GL. As far as ease of obtaining, I would probably put the Defiant guns first, Recovered Opulent second, Neomuna guns third, and the Root weapons fourth. While the Opulent and Neomuna weapons can be grindy, there is more of a time commitment than a hard barrier. It's more about dedication and patience than anything else. That does it for this video. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe and tell me what you think of these weapons in the comments. Anyway, appreciate you. Have a good one.